After 3 years together, she said this about her ex in front of everyone. At 38, I thought I understood the nature of love and loyalty. My girlfriend, Isabella, and I had been together for 3 years and 7 months, sharing a cozy two-bedroom in Queens and splitting the rent like the responsible adults we were. I'm a network security analyst, the kind of guy who believes in schedules, reliability, and showing up when I say I will. Isabella works in marketing at a boutique agency and has always been more spontaneous, more willing to dive headfirst into whatever adventure presents itself. When we first started dating, she said she was exhausted by her ex, Marcus, an unpredictable tornado of a man who left her emotionally drained and second-guessing herself. She told me she loved how steady I was, how she could count on me to be exactly who I said I was. Over the last 6 months, though, something shifted. It started with small comments that felt like paper cuts to my confidence. If I suggested we cook at home, something we used to enjoy, she'd sigh and mutter that Marcus would have already made reservations at the new fusion place everyone was talking about. When I carefully planned weekend getaways, she'd compare my methodical approach to Marcus's alleged ability to throw caution to the wind and conjure magic out of thin air. Each comparison felt like a small betrayal, but I kept telling myself she was processing the past and that she'd eventually stop measuring our love against the chaos she'd escaped. The breaking point came on her 29th birthday, a night I'd planned for weeks. She'd mentioned wanting to celebrate at a trendy Manhattan rooftop lounge, the kind of place where the view makes you forget the $22 cocktails. It wasn't in our budget, but it was her birthday, and I wanted her to feel special. I booked a table for 20, coordinated with her friends from work and college, and asked my buddy Connor and his girlfriend Rachel to come so she'd be surrounded by people who cared about her. The evening started beautifully. Isabella wore a stunning emerald dress I'd never seen before, her hair catching the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The energy was infectious, laughter, stories, that warm hum you get around genuine thoughtfulness. She'd been drinking steadily since 8, not slurring, but loose enough that her social filters were gone. Around 10:30, the conversation drifted to relationships. Rachel was gushing about how Connor surprised her with tickets to her favorite band, complete with dinner at the restaurant where they'd had their first date. The table murmured in appreciation. That's when Isabella's voice cut through the warmth like a blade through silk. "God, I wish Christopher would do something spontaneous like that," she said, her words carrying across the table with devastating clarity. Conversations died. Eyes turned. I felt my chest tighten. Marcus used to surprise me all the time. That man knew how to keep things interesting, you know? I took a measured sip of my beer while 20 pairs of eyes watched. Connor shot me a look that said everything about the unspoken rules of public respect between partners. Alcohol had apparently unlocked every comparison she'd been saving. "I mean, don't get me wrong, Christopher is sweet," she went on, gesturing toward me like I was an exhibit rather than the man she loved. "But sometimes I feel like I'm dating my accountant. Marcus had his problems, sure, but at least he was a real man. He never said no. If I wanted to fly to Miami at midnight, we'd be at the airport before I finished packing. If I wanted to try that underground speakeasy in the village, he knew someone who'd get us in." The table became a minefield of awkward glances and throat clearing. Rachel studied her drink. Connor scrolled his phone like he could disappear. Amanda from Isabella's office texted furiously, undoubtedly live blogging the implosion. Isabella kept going. "Christopher plans our grocery trips on a spreadsheet," she announced, drawing a few nervous chuckles. "He has our meals planned 3 weeks out. Marcus would tell me to pack a bag and we'd end up in Montreal or Barcelona, wherever his mood took us. That's real passion. That's being with someone who isn't afraid to live." Something fundamental shifted inside me then, like the foundation I'd stood on for almost 4 years crumbled. This wasn't drunken rambling. This was her truth. I wasn't man enough for her. My steadiness was, to her, a failure of imagination. "Marcus never said no," she added, her voice dreamy, as if describing a lost paradise rather than the relationship that had left her crying on my shoulder. "If I wanted something, he made it happen. That's what a real man does." Silence. Even the restaurant's ambient noise seemed to fade. Faces around me registered shock, embarrassment, pity. No one met my eyes. She had stripped away my dignity and made them witnesses. I finished my beer slowly and decided not to defend myself. Listing my virtues would only prove her point. Besides, she told me everything I needed to know about how she saw me and our future. I stood, took out my wallet, and left enough cash to cover my drinks and a generous tip. The movement caught her attention. "Where are you going?" she asked, annoyed, as if I were interrupting her performance. "Home," I said, steady. "Christopher, don't be like that. I'm just talking with friends." I looked at her, really looked, and saw the challenge in her expression. She wanted me to fight, to prove myself by making a scene. Instead, I said, "Enjoy the rest of your party," and walked away. The elevator ride felt endless. I heard her calling my name but didn't turn. On the subway back to Queens, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not happiness, relief, like I could finally exhale. At the apartment, I packed methodically clothes, books, electronics, the furniture that was definitely mine. I ignored the ringing phone and the flood of texts from Isabella, from Connor, from others who'd watched my public humiliation and felt compelled to weigh in. Sunday morning around 10, I called my colleague David, a friend with a spare bedroom in Astoria he'd been trying to rent. I asked if I could crash for a few weeks. He said yes without asking for details. When Isabella came home that afternoon, I was loading the last of my things into a rental truck. She started crying, big, dramatic tears that would have moved me days earlier but now felt like manipulation. "I was drunk," she said, as if alcohol makes people say things they don't mean instead of removing the filter that hides what they do. I didn't mean any of it. I was just showing off. I told her I'd transfer my half of next month's rent and have my name taken off the lease within a week. She asked to talk. I said there was nothing to discuss. She told a table full of people exactly who I was to her. I was just accepting it. "Christopher, please." 3 years and 7 months doesn't just end because of one stupid conversation. I realized she still didn't understand. She thought I had hurt feelings. She didn't grasp that she'd revealed something fundamental about how she viewed me. "You told everyone I'm not good enough for you," I said. "That Marcus was more of a man. That my stability is a deficiency. If that's how you see me, you deserve someone who excites you the way he did. But that someone isn't me." That was 3 weeks ago. I've been at David's, sleeping on a surprisingly comfortable pull-out and discovering what it feels like not to constantly wonder whether I measure up to an impossible standard set by a man who treated her badly with flair. Week 1 was predictable. Calls and texts, Isabella cycling through anger, sorrow, rationalization, even seduction. I read everything and replied to nothing, not to play games, but because there was nothing to say. She'd shown me who she was. Week 2 escalated. She started showing up at David's building, sometimes in her car for hours, sometimes in the lobby pleading with the doorman. David, a freelance designer, would text, "Your ex is back." When she found David's Instagram, she liked a year of photos and started commenting, innocent at first, then personal, on his coffee post. How I take mine. On a hiking post. How I love the outdoors and our old talk about the Appalachian Trail. "Is this normal breakup behavior?" David asked, half amused, half concerned. "It's getting stocky." Friday evening, I came back from groceries and saw her car. She wasn't in it. The buzzer started at 8, persistent, rhythmic, for 15 minutes. Then text from an unknown number. "I know you're up there." Just 5 minutes. I threw away everything that reminded me of Marcus. "I'm not leaving." David asked if he should call security. I said to wait. By 10:30, the buzzing and text stopped. Her car was gone. Saturday morning she returned with offerings, our favorite bakery's bag and 2 coffees from the cafe where we'd had our first date, plus a note. "I remember everything about what you love. Please remember too." "Should I toss this?" David asked after his dog walking run. "Do whatever you want," I said. "I'm not being manipulated by coffee and pastries." He gave the coffee to an elderly neighbor and ate a croissant. "Spite tastes pretty good," he said, and I laughed for the first time in weeks. Sunday afternoon, Connor called, serious, because he called instead of texting. "Dude, you need to talk to Isabella. She's spiraling." "Not my problem," I said. "She came over and cried for 3 hours. Rachel's about to lose it. She thinks you're being cruel." Did Rachel forget the party? Or does she think public humiliation is something men should accept gracefully? Connor paused. "Look, Isabella admits she screwed up. She was drunk and she's sorry. The silent treatment is killing her. Good, I said, harder than I intended. She spent months making me feel inadequate, then told a room I was a disappointment compared to her abusive ex. I'm glad she's uncomfortable. Jesus, when did you get so cold? When the woman I loved humiliated me in public instead of breaking up with me in private. He sighed. Rachel told Isabella that if I ever talked about her that way, she'd dump me on the spot. She said what Isabella did was unforgivable. Smart woman. But she also thinks people can change. Maybe. I learned something too. I'd rather be alone than be someone's placeholder. Tuesday morning, I ran into Isabella on David's front steps as I left for work. She looked exhausted but still beautiful. Please don't run, she said. 5 minutes. I stopped but didn't sit. The city moved around us. I want to apologize, she said. Not just I'm sorry, but why it was wrong. She took a breath. I was drunk, but that's not an excuse. Drunk people tell the truth. I was scared of how good we were, of how much I depended on your stability and kindness. Marcus was a disaster, cheating, disappearing, making me feel crazy. But he was exciting, and some sick part of me equated chaos with passion. You made me feel safe and valued. Instead of being grateful, I resented you for not being the man who broke me. I tried to feel something other than the numbness that had settled in since that night. Part of me wanted to believe her. Another part knew that understanding the harm doesn't undo it. If you valued my steadiness, I said, you wouldn't have spent months shaming it or humiliated me in front of our friends. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. You told the table that Marcus was more of a man and could satisfy you in ways I couldn't, that I'm your boring safety net with a grocery spreadsheet. She cried harder, drawing looks from passersby. Please, I'll do therapy. I deleted his number. I threw out every photo. I choose you. I believe you on me now, I said gently. But you didn't 3 weeks ago. You wanted Marcus and settled for me because I was safe. The moment you had an audience, you made sure everyone knew I was a consolation prize. That's not true. It is, and you're not sorry for feeling it. You're sorry you said it out loud. If Marcus called tomorrow promising excitement and stability, you'd go. She hesitated. That told me enough. Take care of yourself, I said. I hope you find what you're looking for. I walked to the subway. She called after me. I didn't slow down. That was Tuesday. It's Friday now. My phone has been quiet. David says she hasn't been back. Connor texted that she's telling people I won't let her apologize and that I'm making her look like the villain. I didn't respond. I'm done managing her reputation or shielding her from consequences. I'm done being responsible for how people perceive a situation where I was publicly humiliated. Truth is, I'm sleeping better than I have in months. David's place is peaceful. We watch movies, cook, talk about work without tension. No eggshells. No comparisons. I'm realizing our relationship ended months ago. I just wouldn't admit it. I kept hoping patience and consistency would stop the comparisons to a man who treated her poorly. I thought I could prove my worth through reliability. But you can't love someone into loving you the way you deserve. You can't earn respect from someone who doesn't respect what you offer. You can't build a future with someone who keeps looking backward. For the record, nothing romantic is happening with David. He's an incredible friend, nothing more. I'm not ready for anything else. I'm relearning how to be myself without trying to measure up to a standard set by someone who is never better than me, just more willing to behave badly in exciting ways. A lot of people have shared their stories about being the stable choice after someone's toxic relationship. It's validating. There's a whole category of us trying to prove we're worthy to someone still trauma bonded to their abuser. It's a losing game. The only way to win is not to play. Last week, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom in Astoria with good light and a view of the East River. It's my first time living alone since college, and I'd forgotten how much I like my own space and rhythm. There isn't much furniture yet, but I bought a decent coffee maker and a few plants I'm determined not to kill. Work is going well. I was promoted to senior analyst last month, a solid raise and recognition that attention to detail and a methodical approach are strengths, not flaws. My manager says I'm more confident in meetings. Amazing what happens when no one is telling you you're not enough. As for Isabella, Connor says she's seeing someone from her yoga class, big on spontaneous trips and expensive restaurants. Good for her. I hope she's learned to treat him better than she treated me. I hope she finds excitement without abuse. Most of all, I hope she learns to value stability and kindness. Last weekend, I ran into her at the Queen's Farmers Market with her sister. We made eye contact. She waved. I nodded. No drama. It felt normal, like seeing a former colleague. The absence of tension told me how completely I've moved on. These days, my life is quieter. I work, spend time with friends, cook, read, take evening walks by the river, and I'm considering adopting a cat from the shelter near my place. It's not thrilling by Marcus's standards, but it's mine, and I like it. People ask if I'll reach out now that tempers have cooled. No, not because I'm angry, but because I don't miss what we had. I miss what I thought we had. What I have now is better, peace, self-respect, and the knowledge that I don't have to earn love by changing who I am. This will probably be my final update unless something extraordinary happens, which I doubt. Thanks to everyone who shared their stories and support. You helped me see that what I went through wasn't unique, wasn't my fault, and wasn't something I needed to fix by becoming someone else. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away from someone who doesn't value what you offer and build a life where your natural qualities are strengths, not deficiencies. At 38, I've learned that real love doesn't require competing with ghosts. It doesn't demand constant performance. It doesn't humiliate you in front of friends and then ask for forgiveness because alcohol supposedly excuses cruelty. I'm not the same man who walked out of that restaurant 3 weeks ago. I'm better, stronger, more certain of my value. And if Isabella had been the right person for me, I never would have needed to become this version of myself in the first place.